Trying to figure out the YouTube shit, man. That stuff's weird.
All right, everybody, what is going on? This is the Lone Chemist Podcast, episode
All right, everybody, what is going
23.
on? This is the Long Chemist Podcast.
Wait, I think I'm echoing on you. Do you have headphones by any chance?
No, I think it should be good now.
What the hell? Oh wait, do you have the thing open? Hold on.
Yeah, I do. So, I had it playing on my phone, so that's why.
Oh, got it. All right,
Yeah,
yeah, turn that off. Oh, now it's on my phone. What the hell?
yeah.
All right, well, this is a really good start to the podcast. Perfect. I promise you I'm better at podcasting this. I promise. Don't judge me, please. Anyway, my name is Johnny. I'm the Lone Chemist, and today I actually have a organic chemist like me. I'm pretty excited. So I have Sasha. He is a chemist at University of Denver, I want to say.
Yep.
And so he does organic chemistry like me, so he knows the trials and tribulations and really crappy and also really great things that come out of organic chemistry. And he's got a pretty prolific Instagram following. So he does kind of artsy pictures of chemical reactions, workups, and even cleaning dishes, which is everyone's favorite part of a chemistry lab. But pumped you're here, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So I think I got into your content so I started my YouTube channel and then I made an Instagram for that. And so I think just through osmosis, having the word chemist in my name and going to the search function in Instagram, I ended up seeing your content a lot.
Mhm.
And so I was really impressed because I used to do a lot of color based stuff in undergrad. And so as a graduate student, I've been basically working with oils and basically just water with that. It
Yeah.
smells kind of good, but yeah, it's been not very aesthetically pleasing. So seeing your content, those really awesomely framed pictures is really awesome because people don't really get the fact that chemistry can be art when it's framed the right way. So just to get down on my knees and praise you a little bit. You have a really awesome account and you do some great stuff, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So what kind of got you into photography of chemical reactions? It was just one day you just wanted to, start doing that, or was it a thing you've always been passionate about?
Uh, you'd think I'd have a better answer for this question by now, but so when I first started grad school, we had to TA like a couple sections of Gen Chem,
Okay.
and I realized that I kind of became sensitized to chemistry. You take all these chemistry classes as an undergrad, you start grad school, and you get into a research lab.
Mm-hmm.
But for the majority of the population, a lot of these chemistry things that we see, whether they be reagents or just glassware, it's not really known to them. So I figured I get to see all this cool stuff. Why not show other people? And then I found other accounts on Instagram that were doing similar things. The Boiling Stone.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
yeah, so he's a really big one. Leah the Chemist is another one, but just showing off what you do in an organic lab. And I'm lucky enough that I get to work with colored compounds. I try to do some posts for my students based on whatever we're doing in lab, but it's more of just showing people that don't have everyday access to chemistry what chemistry looks like.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're preaching to the choir because I've always had the mantra where I feel like other disciplines of science, like physics, for example, or biology, or any kind of medicinal sciences, of course, they have kind of I guess, a stranglehold on the public where those areas of science are a lot more highly regarded and, I guess, ascertainable to the layman, for lack of a better term. Where chemistry, I feel like it's one of the most applicable branches of science and scientific research to people's lives, but people don't really understand exactly how applicable it actually is to their own lives. So I've always said that social media is one of the best ways to penetrate through that. And so to see your content, like you're making it informative, but you're also doing it in an artful and aesthetically pleasing way. So that's big buys on that. And also like my podcast, like obviously, so if you watch my channel, I do like film-based critique and I do like media-based video essays and all that. And, thankfully I have someone like you on here who's actually going to talk science with me because I've just had a stunning lack of chemistry on my channel, even though I'm called the Lone Chemist. But I'm not so lonely today. That's good.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about your research. So obviously you do kind of like colored compounds with some of your synthesis. So do you do more methodology, total synthesis, reaction development? What do you exactly do?
So I work with developing molecular probes. This is going to be like kind of like a weird question, but what level do you want this on? Do you want it like surface or?
I'm a chemist and I'll probably understand most of what you're talking about. Just like distill it down, but we can go as far depth as you want, man.
Okay. So basically my project is ethylene detection. Ethylene is one of the 5 major plant hormones. Mm-hmm. Most commonly it's a fruit ripening hormone. So have you heard the expression one bad apple spoils the bunch?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's because as an apple ripens, it releases ethylene that triggers ripening in other fruits around it, so on and so forth. So if you can monitor ethylene production, you can essentially reduce food waste. That's like the basic of it. The way that we do that, we use a Grubbs catalyst, a second generation Hoyveda Grubbs catalyst. Mm-hmm. That's modified with a Boddippy attachment. So that's why you see all those colorful reactions. Mm-hmm. Second to last step in my synthetic pathway, I synthesize a Boddippy. And then after that, I do a ligand exchange with Grubbs second generation to make Hoyveda Grubbs second generation type catalysts. And they selectively detect ethylene, and that's my project.
Cool, man. How many steps is your synthetic pathway to get your final compound to afford that?
Most of my compounds are 5.
Oh, okay. So it's
not bad at all.
So is a lot of what you do like library synthesis, like making a bunch of different analogs of said compound, or like do you did it take a lot of development to get to those 5 steps to make your final products?
So it's a little bit weird because my project is super interdisciplinary. I can never pronounce that word.
Interdisciplinary, yeah. So that was mine, but
so the basics of it are we make this complex, then we throw it on the fluorimeter, we do some optical characterization, quantum yield, max turn on, things like that, and then we have to throw it into a cell under different conditions and see how it responds there. So the project that I'm doing right now, we've published on this in JAX. The project that I'm doing right now, we're making a bunch of analogs, like you said, and then we have to optically characterize everything, throw it into a cell, see what works better, what's not as good, and we're pretty much optimizing our initial disclosure.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So with the cellular stuff, like, do you do like a general assay and see like how potent it actually is in the cell? What's the protocol for the bio aspect of your project?
So the bio aspect, some parts of this I had to leave out just because.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
We got copycatted.
Yeah, there you go. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, but long story short, we apply different concentrations of our probe to different types of cells, and then we expose them to different compounds that either release ethylene or force the plant to release ethylene, and we observe a turn-on in fluorescence using confocal microscopy.
Yeah, and well, it sounds awesome, man. It sounds like a really pretty lucrative project that actually has some some fundamental aspects that can be applied to general science, and also just having, you know, the motivation of food and, you know, hunger actually being a factor for your project. It's pretty sweet.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It always sucks. Like, you know, like I had a project in undergrad where basically like it didn't really have that much applicability. Like, you know, the standard organic chemist mantra is, oh, they're bioactive compounds, let's make them. Right.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
so, but like the project, like I knew that it wasn't going to have any kind of application beyond what I was doing. Like, it was a really minute reaction that I published on a couple times, but like, you know, actually having your project actually be rooted in something that's directly, like, you know, linked to someone's life or your own life personally, I think it's pretty vital for research, because like there's so much of it that's so arduous and so pedantic that you need something to actually like center your motivation to, you know, I guess remember why you're actually doing what you're doing, which is, you know, important for sure.
No, for sure, yeah.
So, and also you brought up something that really, you know, spoke to me. I've been scooped before and it really sucks. It's like the worst day in the lab ever. Oh man. Yeah. Like, like you don't have to tell me the details of this, but like, did you get like, it was legitimately your method and like got like taken from you, or like it was similar enough where you couldn't publish on it?
It was published right after us,
Oh,
but they claimed
yeah.
that it was the first time that something like this has ever been reported. It's practically the exact same compound. You add a little bit of spinach to it, and it's the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
they use a bodipifluorophore, Grubbs catalyst, and they claim to detect ethylene using whatever method, which was like a synopsis of our paper. The biggest difference is we got our stuff into cells, they didn't, and we made like a slightly different variation.
Yeah.
But it came out like a month and a half after ours was officially published.
Yeah.
So that was like we joke around in the lab like, you know, you can't go home because, you know, those guys are working on our paper right now.
Well, hey man, at least you published it. At least it was, like, it wasn't like you had like, you know, years worth of work and it got like taken from you. At least like you were able to publish it first, so you guys are the actual first documented one. Which is
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there you go.
that would be heartbreaking.
Oh yeah, no, for sure, it's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so to bring it back to the social media aspect of what you do, we don't want to bore, you know, the viewers that aren't chemists in my audience, but like,
My bad.
so for the actual photography of what you do, like, have you always had an interest in photography, like just generally?
Yeah. I used to take just like random pictures in high school of like a cool looking tree at sunset, you know, cliche stuff all the time. I
Notebook
kind
kind of stuff.
of well, what?
The notebook kind of stuff.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Kind of left that behind, and then I started doing it a little bit in undergrad, but I was never on Instagram. And then I figured, you know, grad school is a good opportunity to do this. I started posting things here and there, and you know, I got a good response from it, and I just kept going with it. It was a really nice outlet.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you have a pretty sizable audience. And I remember reading some article. Were you featured in CNN?
Yeah, it was.
Wow, humble brag. That's fucking awesome, man. Like, good for you. So, like, walk me through like the growth of your actual account. Like, did you like immediately start getting like, you know, subs and follows and all that kind of shit, or like did it take like, you know, post on post on post to like get some traction?
It was a very slow grind.
Let me ask though. So you're in your fourth year, right?
Yep.
And so did you start directly when you got into your PhD program, or like
Yeah.
when you started like, you know, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I started halfway through my first year.
Okay.
So pretty much how it goes, I just started posting pictures. I saw that Ica was a big page, Boiling Stone was a big page, and I started looking at the type of stuff that they posted. I posted stuff from my lab, from the Gen Chem labs that I was TAing at the time. They'd had like an inorganic chemistry section, so that was super colorful. I started interacting with people, and that was like kind of like the best feedback at first, when people take the time to comment
Sure.
on your photographs or whatever your work is, and they have genuine curiosity. That kind of like fed the desire to like post more stuff. And I think I was around like 2,000 followers, and like by this time, people knew that I was like big on Instagram, quote unquote, uh, in my circle.
Yeah.
That I was always responding to stuff or posting stuff, and then I posted a picture, a video, a time lapse of a copper tree that I had made in lab, adding silver nitrate to it, that redox displacement
Oh
reaction.
yeah.
So that chemist tree, that went on to have 8 million views.
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah, it was
8
literally
million?
8 million.
What was it like? Ghost posted somewhere else, or just from your own account? It was 8 million views. Did it
So
reposted or?
no, so unfortunately, Instagram doesn't keep track of repost numbers, but a couple art pages found it, and this guy that had like 2 million followers reposted it, and then this other page that had a million something followers reposted it, and they actually gave me credit for it. And within like 4 days, 5 days, I went from 2,000 to like 13, 14,000, or something crazy like that.
And what was this? Like how many years ago was this?
This was, I want to say, what year is it? We're in 2019,
Yeah.
so I want to say 2017.
Wow. Holy
December
shit.
2017. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Holy crap, man. That's amazing, dude.
Yeah.
That's million views for one Instagram video. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you think you're like some like model in California or some shit, like, but you're a chemist. That's so awesome.
Yeah, it was. And then I had people contacting me like left and right, like, oh, so I had the chemistry video that went viral, and I also had this byproduct of a Bodippy reaction, a fluorophore, that shifted from blue to pink. That video also went super viral. I'm not sure how many views that one had, but I think it had like, I want to say like 30,000 likes on it. It was something crazy, at least for me, for my size profile. Um, so
Yeah.
between those things, I had a bunch of people blowing me up, like asking me a bunch of questions, like what's your chemistry about? How do you replicate these things? And yeah, I just kept going.
That's awesome, man. Like, good for you. Like, God, 8 million. I can't get over that number. God damn.
Yeah, it's
Killing it.
nuts.
No, for sure. So I mean, that was kind of like gonna lead into my next question about this whole thing, but like, what's been the most gratifying thing for you about this whole kind of Instagram venture that you started, aside from the amazing numbers and the audience engagement? Is just like having the creative outlet from the lab to kind of take your mind off things? Is the fact that you're actually educating the populace about chemistry and how beautiful the science can actually be?
Yeah. So both of those things actually. um, every once in a while, so the one of the biggest things that happened to me, I had a random follower. Little bit of background: I'm first generation American. Both of my parents are from Haiti.
Okay.
So I have like a little Haitian flag in my bio. I had this kid that was in high school, and he messaged me and said that he's interested in chemistry, interested in science, and he wants to get a PhD in chemistry, and he's going to study chemistry in college. And he sees that I'm a Haitian chemist doing all these cool things, all these cool things. So that gives him like a motivation or a hope that he can do the same thing. And that was it sounds a little cliche, but that was like a very big moment for me, because I never thought of myself as a role model or somebody that could be, I don't know, like an example for anything. I was just doing my thing,
Yeah,
but
sure.
to give somebody like a little bit of a spark of motivation to aspire to be a chemist, that was pretty awesome.
That's really awesome, man. And that's I'm sure it's the most gratifying thing, because I mean, chemistry is a very arduous and a very tiresome thing sometimes, especially when you're in the organic lab late at night. I mean, I told you I pulled a couple all-nighters like last week and this week as well. So like it's been nuts. But to have that kind of non-diminishing returns, for lack of a better word, when you have somebody who actually is engaged in the science because of your effort. I'm sure that's like, an amazing feeling. So good for you, man. That's pretty awesome. You're educating the populace. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just generally about chemistry in itself, what got you actually into organic chemistry? Like, so for me, like for my background, like I was convinced I was going to be a doctor for years. I did pre-med, the entire thing through undergrad. And I kind of just decided at the very, very last second that like organic chemistry was something I was really passionate about. And it was really it was the first subject in school where like I was passionate about it. And also it was one of the things where it just came naturally to me, like almost like impact, like immediately. And so like after years and years and years of like thinking I was going to be a doctor, I just realized that like I was more passionate about doing this than I would be about something else where, I was going to be a doctor and sitting in a white padded room the rest of my life. So, what caused, I guess, your just general passion for, chemical reactions in chemistry?
So, I had a very similar route. I came into college thinking I was going to do either medicine or pharmacy. And those were the things I was dead set on for the longest time. Took OChem, and to be blunt, it kicked my ass. OChem kicked my ass. But I think that's what kind of sparked it. It was a challenge. It was something that I had to put a lot of time into. I was kind of that lazy kid in class that kind of just like sat there, got it, took a test, and was good. The first OChem test I took wrecked me.
Really?
That kind of like took a blow to my ego. So I like put in some serious hours. I studied a lot for it, a lot. And this was on top of like being in a fraternity, going to parties, like doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And I just remember long hours in the library studying, trying to figure stuff out, and finally getting it, And there was like a point where you saw reagents, you saw the starting material in a non-specific chapter, so you don't know like what they're trying to egg you to do. And it clicked. You started justifying why reactions worked, and it started to make sense. And I just fell in love with that concept. I just thought it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I love the point that you brought up where I feel like organic chemistry gets a bad social stigma because people relate that to absurd amounts of memorization and just blunt force getting the information to your head and spitting it out. Where in my mind, I've always felt that organic chemistry was highly, highly intuitive, where as long as you understand the general reactivity trends, as long as you know basically, I mean, I was taught with like basically the Clayton-esque like mantra with molecular orbital theory, kind of like centering all of your endeavors in the subject. Yes. So to understand the fundamentals of actually how the atoms and electrons are actually linked, and then basically understanding general reactivity trends, I feel like you can justify most of what you see in organic chemistry just from looking at it on the page. And when you actually get into the lab, it's much of the same, but it's just a highly more immersive experience. So I'm just curious, what do you think can be done to kind of combat the terrible social stigma that organic chemistry has? Because to give you a story, my undergraduate professor, who's my research advisor after a couple weeks, because I loved it so much, he opened the class and said, "How many people are terrified right now?" And everybody raised their hands. And I was in the back row, like hungover, I won't lie. So I didn't really raise my hand to do anything. But yeah, so what do you think can be done to kind of battle that social stigma that organic chemistry has for all the undergraduates out there that are taking it?
I'm probably not the best one to ask about. I'm a little bit more of the tough love type of person. But to be blunt about it, you start your undergraduate experience, you take Gen Chem, you have no idea what the hell is going on. Most of the undergrads are still trying to figure out how to manage a hangover, and they get through Gen Chem. Some of them struggle, but they get through it. They're like, "Oh, I hated it. It was so much math." Then you get to OChem, or you start taking more advanced biology classes, and it's going to suck. It's going to be hard, and that's the point. I'll tell you, like, I have a bunch of friends. You probably have a bunch of friends in medical school. My wife's in med school. She doesn't use OChem. They don't use OChem. But it teaches you to get through the hard stuff. You know, there's going to be stuff in medicine that you don't enjoy doing, but you have to. And that's just part of the grind. It's part of the struggle. So if you can get through Gen Chem, you get through OChem, you get through quantitative chemical analysis, genetics, all these hard classes, it's not that it's going to get easier. Your capacity for what's hard just goes up. You get stronger. I think that's something that undergrads often lose sight of when, you know, you've seen them go through the process where they go in, they're just like, oh crap, he talked about hybridization. I have no idea what this means. And then they're going through junior year P-Chem, doing Diffie-Q, particle in a box, whatever it is. And you're just like, remember when you struggled with what hybridization and imine was? You know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So just reminding yourself of how far you've come, and being proud of the goals that you've checked off. You know, the what do you call those? The check, whatever checkpoints you have, whatever classes you've gotten through. If you've gotten through those, then that only gives you motivation and encouragement to get through the even harder things, because it's going to get harder.
Yeah, for sure. And like a part of what you say, I definitely agree with, for sure, because like, I mean, organic chemistry and really just graduate studies in general are trial by fire. You're kind of thrown into the lick of it, and they give you never up to choke yourself. And if you hang, you hang, and if you don't, you don't. I think though, with the educational system around organic chemistry, I feel like because people that are usually on a pre-medical track are predisposed to stress and you know, a high amount of holy shit, this is going to be on the test, so I have to learn everything the teacher's going to say, otherwise I'm fucked and my life is ruined. Yep. I feel like because of that, that's fostered the idea where it's just like biology and you have to sit in front of a textbook and memorize all the bold words and like drill flashcards in your head. And because of that, they treat organic chemistry not as like a science, but literally a repository where they have to deposit all the information and just regurgitate shit in the spot. So like the thing I think is ideal for something like that is, like you said, one, the tough love thing, embrace the struggle. But two, I think that the approach in which we take to educating people about organic chemistry has to be on a fundamental level. So starting with things that are more fundamental, like molecular orbital theory or hybridization or electron movement and stuff. Just starting with SN1 and SN2, like you usually do in organic chemistry, I feel like is kind of counterintuitive because
you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. So like, and that's why I love you've read Clayton's book. Have you read Clayton's book?
You know, I'm not sure.
So basically the reason why I love that book so much is because you learn all the molecular orbital theory you will ever need for the entire course in the first two chapters. Like you learn bonding, you learn basically the fact that, you know, it's a homo-lumo interaction for pretty much every single reaction error that you draw. Every mechanism is based on, you know, something with high energy stabilizing low energy. And actually the first reaction that you learn is a reduction of sodium borohydride, like just with acetone. And so like basically because there's only one thing that will happen to it, you're able to reinforce the way in which you learn the subject as you go. And then once you get to the more complex things like, okay, regiochemical outcomes, stereo inversions, SN1 and SN2, things that actually require more intuition, you've already built the foundation on knowing all of the fundamental chemistry behind it, so now you can actually problem solve in real time a lot more effectively, which is what I experienced in organic chemistry. Because like, you know, if I was taught just the general, like, okay, flashcards and I'm going to memorize all these goddamn reactants, I probably would not be an organic chemist today. Like, I think that,
no way. And not to speak directly to that, but close. A lot of OChem kids get scared of taking OChem because everybody tells them to be scared of taking OChem.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, and you have like a friend that used to be pre-med, but now he's a business major, failed out of OChem or whatever it is. No offense to the business majors out there that, you know, fall in that category, but they spook everybody else that's going into it. You know, the sad truth of it is the people who speak loudest are the people who are bitter or who have some resentment toward the subject because they didn't do well for whatever reason.
Sure.
And then that's going to be a dominant influence for a lot of these kids just starting the class. If you know something's going to be hard and you have to buckle down and study, but you can get through it. It's a lot different than, this is the weeder course. This is what decides. This is going to be the make or break. And that just causes a lot of unnecessary stress for these students. Often, I go over tests with students, and they'll say, like, I know this reaction. I got it wrong, but I know this. How come I got it wrong? And it's because you're so psyched out when you're taking test. What you see is not the test that you see on Monday is not the test you took on Friday.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, like so much of the struggle behind organic chemistry isn't even, I mean, obviously it's a challenging subject. I'm not saying it's easy by any means. I mean, even though I said it came naturally to me, I still had to study. I still had to work at it, even though that I understood it. But a lot of the struggle for the course is just the fact that people have this kind of self-fulfilling prophecy where they think it's going to be the hardest course of their entire lives, so therefore it materializes in that way, which is so shitty because if everyone started the way that I started organic chemistry with my professor, Sean Mulcahy at Providence College, he's a great guy. But if everyone started the way that I started, and everyone experienced the perpetual love for organic chemistry that I experienced, there would be no social stigma behind it. And the fact that people use it as oh, this is the linchpin for me getting into fucking medical school. Like this one course is going to decide my future.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything that can be done about that because it's still going to be a requirement on the MCAT, but still it's just, it's a weird problem that I don't know what we're going to do about that. But so to bring it back to you, the fact that you're demonstrating how beautiful and how nuanced and how really just aesthetically pleasing organic chemistry and just generally chemistry can be, I think is a good way to start having this new mantra of organic chemistry where it's something that can actually be lauded and appreciated from an aesthetic level. And then once maybe the aesthetics get more penetrated into the actual populace, maybe we can actually impart some kind of change on the system in which organic chemistry is kind of demonized. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. What I try to do with my page is I try to drop a little bit of educational stuff every once in a while.
Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
that tip of the oil bath and sea light, 10 out of 10. Thank you for telling me that.
Yeah, for
because,
sure.
Dude, oh my God, I heat my reactions pretty freaking high sometimes, and all the crud that accumulates in there, and literally one thing through sea light or silica, and bam.
Yep. Yeah.
Attaboy, thank you for that. But please go on.
That's the other thing I love. There's so many things I love about science and social media. You have no idea how many tips or tricks I've seen from other chemists that just help things, whether it be adding a salt for a workup. If you're trying to remove DMF and you add lithium chloride, it just removes DMF super, super fast, instead of having to do 6 water washes, you do 2 with lithium chloride and you're good to go. Or just different techniques that, okay, let me restart real quick.
Go ahead, yeah.
The interesting thing about chemistry is that when you work in a lab, you've had so many people come and go, different postdocs, different grad students. They learn these little tips. They come in with these little tips, and those things stay in the lab. So every lab, even at my university, the 3 organic labs that we have here, we have different workup procedures for similar reactions because it's what we're comfortable with, it's what we've known, it's what works best. And maybe there could be 10 different ways of working up a reaction, but we don't get exposed to that unless we rotate in that lab or unless we have a one-on-one conversation. So the cool thing about social media is it's an outlet for people to say, hey, if you're doing a prep TLC, here's a really cool way of setting it up, super fast, super efficient. Or here's a way of monitoring a reaction using thionyl chloride. And you just pass those tips along, and you just don't know who it helps.
All right. Well, first of all, I don't think there's any way you can run a prep TLC and have it be a fun experience. So I don't know if I trust you on that one.
I'll send you a link. I'll see if I can find it.
All right. Yeah. Slide in my DMs and send me that. But so I'm just curious now. What's the thionyl chloride reaction monitoring trick that you have?
So reaction with thionyl chloride, if you're converting a carboxylic acid into an acyl chloride, you release an equivalent of HCl.
Yep.
So if you're refluxing it, keeping it at room temperature, if you stick a needle in the septa and then hold a piece of pH paper over it, if it turns red.
Yep. You know, the gas evolution is acidic, therefore it's, you know, close to done. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So just simple things like that.
Yeah, like I actually have something kind of similar. That you know, I was gonna make a post about it, but my page is not like, you know, related to chemistry, which I probably should start posting more stuff about that because all my Snap stories are self-deprecating, me running all-nighters and running columns and shit. But anyway, so like there was this reaction. You've heard of the Bamford Steven Shapiro reaction, right?
Give me the rundown real quick.
Basically, it's when you take a carbonyl containing compound and you treat it with a lithium base and a you condense on a tosyl or any kind of like aromatically hindered hydrazide to make a hydrazone out of it. Then you add Bewley or any kind of strong lithium base, and you basically deprotonate the alpha position, and you make basically a vinyl anion through collapse of you know, the lost nitrogen gas.
Right.
And so essentially it starts out as a dilithiate species before the collapse and therefore the decomposition of nitrogen gas. So that's bright orange. And so when you have to do this at minus 78 and then you heat it up to 0 degrees, which is an ice bath, what happens is, because you lose nitrogen gas, one of the lithium atoms goes away and basically just kind of washes out, and you're left with one lithium anion, and that's yellow. So it's a completely different color change from orange to yellow, which I have a video of that, which I honestly should post. It's pretty cool, but yeah, little nuances like that are so cool for reaction monitoring, because it's like, you know, it's a qualitative indicator of basically reaction going forward. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll send it to you and you can post it for me because you have a better audience than me. So maybe I'll let you have that one first.
You got to get your chemistry career started on IG, man.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but I'm doing the video essays. That's my grind. You know, yeah, just making subject critiquing movies, or not even critiquing, just appreciating. I'm not a negative guy, but you know. Doing that kind of like a constructive criticism kind of thing is my passion and stuff. But I do want to incorporate more chemistry in my page, like going forward. I just love the idea of a frowny face as my my logo for the lone chemist. So it's kind of what I went with there. So just generally with the field of chemistry, what do you think is kind of the hot topic, or the thing that's really going to be of a lot of precedence in the next couple of years for organic chemistry? Like, one obvious one that I think of is probably photoredox catalysis. I think that's a majorly hot area. There's a lot of things like out of the Macmillan lab.
Doyle.
Yeah. But so what do you think is like going to be the one of the hotter fields that kind of emerge in the next couple of years?
Oh wow. So a couple topics I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Using first row transition metals for catalysis rather than like ruthenium, rhenium, palladium, things like that. Developing that's still got a ways to go. A big thing that we talked about was, you know, they have this reactor. You just like kind of punch in whatever, and it does reactions for you.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one?
It scared me for like my job prospects, but yes, I saw it. I'm just kidding.
Like, it's no. A lot of the people that I've talked to about it, they freak out about it. And I thought, what was research like before we had NMR?
Yeah, you know? Dude, like characterized with chromic acid and shit. Like if you read some of those Woodward papers from back in the day, holy crap! It's like,
I think I have. Hold on, check this out. So,
wow.
The Aldrich Library of Infrared Spectra. Okay, this is like literally just a book
of just IR spectra of characterizable compounds.
Yeah, like dense with a shit ton of different spectra. Like, this is what people did.
And think about it. What did they do before that? Like, before they had IR.
It's like, what is it? Tollens test. Let's see if there's an aldehyde here next.
Yeah, like imagine like with Woodward. I think it was quinine. It was the last compound to ever be characterized with, like, you know, non-spectroscopic methods. I think he used like chromic acid and some other like lithium salt or some shit. But like imagine like evaluating a 3D cage structure and like doing all those chemical tests and blowing up your compound to try and confirm that you have it. Where it's like now
Yeah.
we have non-invasive and non-destructive procedures to do that. But to your point, like, you know, so, like, I was being kind of snide and glib when I was saying like, oh, my job's going to be destroyed. No, I think it's going to enable just chemists to do a lot more thinking, because as well as a robot can run a reaction, like they can't do a proper retrogenetic analysis that's like, you know, not based on whatever the literature precedent is. They can't do, you know, the problem solving of, okay, the subtle nuance between electrostatic and steric environments. I think
Yeah.
that, you know, it honestly would be really nice to like, you know, set up a reactor and have it run 4 reactions in parallel, get some starting materials, and I can like, you know, be the one who's thinking of that shit.
Right. No, just to go back to that real quick, I really wonder what kind of scale they did their reactions on. Because you imagine like what it would take to characterize, you had to do so many qualitative tests to figure out whatever functional groups, elemental analysis, yada yada. Where like NMR, you drop 10 milligrams in a vial,
Yeah,
and you're good. Um, but like you're saying, I feel like the majority of my PhD is synthesizing stuff. I make a whole bunch of different compounds, I characterize them, and if I could cut that out, I would spend more time on literature, figuring out what's on there, what's a good thing, what's not a good thing, and just making more conceptual advancements in my project rather than
exactly.
grinding out a ton of reactions. So it's not the death of the field. If anything, we're going to see greater strides in organic chemistry in the field faster. Just
Yeah, because I mean, I think about it. I mean, we've done kind of a high throughput stuff for years and years and years, but to have a high throughput screening where you can not only discover new reactions but optimize said reactions in an automated way, like that's gonna like, you know, discover reactions we have no idea fucking existed before that. Like it's gonna, like, I feel like, you know, our discovery in terms of things with organic chemistry and new reactions and different kind of mechanistic outcomes, I feel like it's gonna skyrocket. And I feel like, you know, people are, you know, the purists in the field are going to say, well, you know, like you don't run your own columns, you're not a real chemist. No, a chemist, by definition, is somebody who understands the way in which matter is oriented. And the reason why I bring up the auto column example is because I was spoiled in undergrad. I had a biotage with a UV vis and a mass spec associated with it. You punch in the mass, you punch in the RF, and 15 minutes later, done. And now I'm back to the manual columns.
okay.
But it's okay. You know, I've gotten very suspiciously good at running columns. Like I got to the point where I can run 2 at the same time now. Basically, I set up in parallel. Obviously, I'm not taking TLCs during it, but basically, like, you know, I run whatever, how many liters, and I switch them out, and then I'll spend an hour doing TLCs afterwards. But yeah,
No, that's impressive. That's
well, after you run like 12 columns in one night, you get pretty decent at it.
yeah. Over the summer, our LC went down, and our boss was like, "Well, until the tech comes out, you guys are running manuals." We had this a huge deadline, and I didn't do organic. I didn't do much organic research as an undergrad. I did more analytical type stuff.
Yeah.
So this last summer was the first time making columns, running columns, doing all that stuff, and yeah, you learn to figure it out.
Yeah, like I feel like the graduation for like someone who's being mentored to an actual person who can mentor somebody, I feel like running a column in under an hour is a great benchmark for that. Like a decently sized like 5-gram column or something like that. Nothing too big, but like being
Yeah.
able to do that from like start to stop and get your compound as pure as possible. I feel like that's a good stepping stone for a chemist for sure.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but
No, dude. Like you're fine.
all right. You know, cool. So what do you envision for, you know, we talked about kind of the field of chemistry. We talked about the deep learning stuff with automated chemical reactions. We talked about photoreactive catalysis. In general, like, you know, some really exciting stuff with like, you know, square amide catalysis, for example, like the Jacobson lab that came out with, I think it was a completely enantiomer selective SM1 reaction, which is absolutely nuts that they can do that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, pretty absolutely insane. But aside from that, so like looking specifically to your page, what do you kind of envision for the future of your page? Do you see it, stopping when you leave graduate school? Do you see it, I'm not sure what career path you want to take. Do you want to do something in actual academics, and will you actually continue your Instagram page as a continuation of that? Will you, after you're out of the lab, will you just post random studies that you find that are interesting and kind of keep it more informational? Because obviously, like, if you're not around colored complexes all day, it's going to be hard to keep that aesthetic beauty of your page, which is just, amazing for me to see. So what do you envision for like your actual page in the next, I don't know, 3 or 4 years?
Oof, you're gonna get me like so many unfollows for this response. But um, so over time, I've realized that a lot of people are interested in not just the chemistry, but also the people actually doing the chemistry. So my goal is to integrate my personal life into my chemistry page. So it's, the, not to sound weird, but more of like the diary of a chemist.
Sure.
What my day-to-day life is like, the process of getting a PhD, what I'm doing after that. I plan on doing a postdoc. I plan on staying in chemistry. I would love to be a teacher. So adding more of an educational aspect is definitely work. But I just want people to be interested in chemistry. That's what it comes down to. There's this huge cloud of uncertainty of like what actual chemistry is, or a bunch of pseudoscience that comes out, which like drives me crazy. And because people say, you know, carbon dioxide, or like they some chemistry sounding word that gives them some ability. So I feel like having a tool set or providing a tool set for people to look at chemistry and say it's not scary, or look at chemistry and try to figure out what's BS, what actually makes sense. Here's an example. The other day, there was this video that was going through Facebook about the pH of water. And it was talking about if it's acidic, it's bad for you. If it's basic, it's good for you. And I thought, like, I can kind of see where they're going with this, but that is a very, very big oversimplification of what to get across. Like, let's talk about orange juice that has like a pH between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Compared to a pH 8, like, yeah, orange juice is terrible for you. Coffee is terrible for you. So just to say that something's acidic and that's bad is, but for the general public that isn't exposed to what pH is, or acidity, basicity, whatever, that's science to them. There was this other video where this guy took, what was it? A piece of coal and wrapped it in peanut butter or something like that. Left it overnight and revealed a crystal. And they were like, coal makes diamonds because whatever. It was this crazy pseudoscience thing. And I thought, like, there's somebody out there that actually believes.
Yeah, that's cringeworthy. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No. Like that's exactly what I'm saying. I have no idea like how somebody would post that and think that that's real, but it's there.
Wait, isn't that one of the mantras that undergrads use? Like, diamonds are made under pressure when you're writing like, a fucking a term paper at the last minute. Do they really think that like, peanut butter is going to apply the appropriate pressure to condense a piece of coal into a diamond? Like,
we're assuming that these people have some chemistry background.
Oh, man, that's upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah. So to answer your question in short, I'd like to integrate my personal Instagram page. I would like to continue doing informational type stuff, and I think the aesthetics aspect of it is just something that appeals to me. So that's not something I'm gonna phase out anytime soon.
Yeah, man. And also, I mean, like, you have those beautiful compounds you're working with. Like, why let it go to waste? And even like your just procedural stuff, like, running an auto column, which I love seeing those things because I miss seeing those beautiful bands come off your column. And I have a little bit of salt towards you for that. But no, like, I like the fact that you integrate, just the general tips and tricks. You integrate the fact that your stuff is actually beautiful to look at, and the general procedural stuff you do, recrystallization, filtering off. I think the first one that I saw from you was I think it was just some kind of deprotonation of something, and just the fact that you filmed the gas evolution from whatever reaction you were doing. Yeah, just stuff like that. The fact that you put all the aesthetically amazing stuff on display, but you also show the nitty gritty of actually what you're doing, which I think that a lot of science pages that are geared towards people that aren't in the field, they kind of just go for the glamour and they don't really have any of the grit. And I feel like the fact that you have both and you actually want to incorporate more proportionality into it, I feel that's really awesome. So I think your page is gonna maybe you'll have a what's better than CNN. You'll probably be on CNN on the TV or some shit.
Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I appreciate that. I never thought I'd have the K next to my followers mark on Instagram. It was just something I started doing. I thought it was fun, and just kept going with it. It's a slow grind. It is such a slow grind.
Yeah.
And it just takes one video, or in my case, pretty much one video for everything to just kind of blow up and get attention going. And I'm sure you're a video creator, you're familiar with this. It's the quality of the content that you put out. Oh, yeah. And once you get noticed, then, your work speaks for itself.
Yeah, man. I'm hoping to, have that kind of boom. I have, I think 1,500 subs right now, which is, my recent essay on Thanos from Infinity War from the Avengers movie. That's getting some good traction and stuff. But maybe once I start incorporating some more science into what I'm doing, that would be great. I also had this idea of because I'm a chemist and I understand the science behind a lot of things that happen in movies, doing a not like Mythbusters, but you know what I mean, where it's you'd actually talk about the science that's actually on display. If someone's running a chemical reaction, like a Breaking Bad, for example, talking about the fact that, this, for example, the blue meth in Breaking Bad can never be blue because of the degree of conjugation in methamphetamine. So it would have to be yellow or pale yellow or some shit.
Bro, I promise you, if you made videos like that, holy crap, you get so much attention. You're an organic chemist. As soon as somebody finds out I do, you're they ask, have you ever seen Breaking Bad? Do you know how to make meth? I have seen Breaking Bad. I can't answer the second question. Let's move on.
Which, by the way, I mean, Breaking Bad's the best show of all time. Undisputedly. Yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I feel like there's a kind of a rich amount of content that can be taken from investigating how scientific endeavors in, pop culture and just in general media and entertainment, how closely related they are to actual science and chemistry and reaction development and stuff, which I think it would be cool to, maybe I'll do something like that in the future. Obviously there's the whole fear of you have the storms of people that will take one thing you say out of context and be actually, it's not how that works. So
that's exactly what I'm struggling with right now. So I
want to ask that. So it's do you have people that are trying to be backseat drivers, so to speak, with your Instagram page?
Yes. Simple answer, yes. Inherently, chemistry is kind of what?
I was going to say, some people in the field of chemistry, I love a lot of people that I work with, and they're great. Some people are kind of pompous, and I think their way is the highway. Yeah, their way or the highway. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just the nature of what we do, where you have to prove why you're right and somebody else is wrong, or why you know more than somebody else. So me putting my work or an explanation out there for anybody to criticize, there's always at least one person that tries to tell me I'm wrong, or and sometimes it's productive. Sometimes it forces you to read into somebody's thesis on why a kettle still removes oxygen and any moisture from a reaction while you're distilling off ether or whatever.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Because people will give you weird criticisms, and I think that's part of it. You got to just roll with the punches there. And I know I'm saying that I'm comfortable with that on Instagram. I'm thinking about, I've well kind of started a YouTube page, but I'm skeptical to like put things on there for fear that somebody who's done Deals Alder reactions for their entire PhD, hears something that I say wrong.
You forgot the secondary orbital overlap, you idiot.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I feel like with anything, like, there's always going to be those people that, like, think they're smarter than you, or maybe not smarter, but are more informed about whatever you're talking about. I feel like there's always that kind of didactic need to be correct on the internet, which is unfortunate because, like, people don't view it as a constructive thing. They view it towards, it's like, okay, if I take this one line out of context, it can be misinterpreted, so therefore I must destroy you. Like, it's kind of weird. Like, it's a little bit toxic, to be honest. I mean, like, we see it in science, but also obviously in politics, it's a huge thing where, like, people deliberately misinterpret what you're saying, or either offer criticism or maybe it's not warranted. Sometimes, like you said, it's productive, but yeah, it's kind of a weird thing that happens in social media. Like, while social media is, like, it's given rise to so much good, there is kind of a downside to it where it's like you have screaming people that will just kind of tear you down in every way.
Yeah, I think I really feel like that's starting to get a lot of pushback where the keyboard warriors and the trolls are kind of getting a little bit of backlash for kind of being rude for the sake of being rude. I
Yeah.
think there's a difference between constructive criticism, where somebody has a genuine curiosity or honest input to put in on something, versus I want to prove that you're wrong and show the world that you don't know what you're talking about. Um,
Yeah.
there's definitely a big difference there. I know that people are starting to pay attention to that and have that weigh in on the weight of somebody's negative comment. So as far as like Instagram goes, I I just post whatever now. I I used to be like super worried. Like, let me double check all these numbers, make sure that everything's precise. I don't want to say anything that's wrong because it's my credibility on the line.
Yeah. Which is so unfortunate too, because it's like a fun thing to do. Like, this crystallization that I did today worked out really, really well. And then you have people like that will like chirp you for shit like that. It's like, dude, I'm trying to appreciate the science of chemistry. I'm not trying to, like, and like this kind of goes to another thing. Like, the amount of arrogance that you have to publicly and shamelessly call somebody out when maybe they just, like, you're taking whatever they're saying out of context. Like, the amount of pompousness, hubris, and arrogance that takes is pretty stunning, to be honest with you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. Um, Haters hate. Just let haters hate. That's like the end all statement. But
But it's just
it's
weird
true.
because, like, like, you're not posting, like, how to run a titration with X amount of fucking, DPAA or some shit. Like, you have a cool chemical reaction that has some cool precipitate that, like, glows, like, or you have, like, a cool column where the TLC actually, looks really sweet, like the one you did where, like, you fluoresce and, like, you have, like, green splotches and shit. That's really cool. But
Yeah,
I can't imagine what kind of person would, like, try and nuance troll you about, like, something like that. Like, that's crazy.
yeah. No, so an example I had a post where I compared. I had like different Eppendorf tubes, different concentrations of fluorescein, just to show the difference between what you can see with fluorescence versus what you can see in normal lighting. And I mentioned collisional quenching, and then somebody like combated me like,
Oh
oh, I
God.
don't think this is collisional quenching because of XYZ. And it was kind of like, um, oh, you mere mortal, how dare you say that this is collisional quenching? It's actually this, and you should know better. So it's like, I'll look into it, but I'm just gonna delete your comment and move on with my day.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, as much as we can, like, say the trolls are idiotic, I mean, like, you're the one with the keys to the kingdom. It's your page. You're basically God on that page.
Yeah, it's my page. If I say something blatantly wrong and like a couple people call me out, I'll look into it and I'll gladly say I'm not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how most people should be. Like, someone, like, for example, like my Thanos video essay, it's getting some good positive feedback, but there's one guy who's like, I completely disagree with your video, but I still respect the fact that you made this and you made your point. I just disagree with your premise. I said, that's perfectly fine. If you want to combat me on that and you disagree, totally fine. 100%. When you're a
Yeah.
dick about it and you say like, why the fuck would you do this, you idiot? Like you're garbage, like you're nothing,
Yes.
like who gave you a page just to do for movies or chemistry? Like, you're probably not a real chemist, fuck you. Like imagine being motivated enough by just arrogance and having your shit smell like roses apparently to actually like call someone a piece of shit on the internet and not feel any guilt about it. It's like why?
I Yeah. So the other day I was talking about this with my wife. Pretty much the premise of the discussion was you go out, you have to like find the right angle with your camera. You have to like fix all the settings. You take this awesome picture, you edit it a little bit, and you put so much time into a caption, into a photo, into all this stuff. And you, for your video work, you probably like have a written script where you like go through and
Yeah.
talk about everything. And it takes somebody like 10 seconds to say this is a piece of shit. Why would you ever do
Yeah,
this?
dude.
And it's like, you put so much time. What are you doing? And like, who made you almighty? Like, who made that person almighty that they have the authority to call somebody else's work crap when you're the one putting in all the time to think
Yeah.
about how you're going to orchestrate your video, when you're going to bring in this idea or this motive,
Exactly.
this and all this whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just interesting that people don't appreciate the time that other people put into a piece of content. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like you said, the time, the effort, and the sheer passion for the subject you're actually presenting, like that takes hours and hours and hours. Like my Thanos video is like 19, 20 minutes long, and it took me hours to make it. It took me hours to keyframe things in and animate things and make things transitions, look sexy and stuff. And with you, you have to frame your shit like perfectly, and you have to actually do your research and know what you're talking about because you're a chemist, obviously. But we don't want to be taken out of context, and it takes
Yeah.
5 seconds for someone to do that. And I honestly I just want to say, like, dude, if you feel so strongly, go ahead, make your own page, man, and I will treat you the exact same way you're treating me.
Exactly.
Because it's like the creativity is the hard part, and with the Thanos video I was talking about, the guy disagreed, but he said, like, I know this video took a lot of work and you worked your ass off on it. I just disagree with your conclusion, but great video anyway.
I
Like, subscribe to
respect
your
that.
channel. I'm just like, okay, awesome. Like that's a free exchange of ideas. That's actually being constructive, and I will take what that guy says to heart, because like, okay, he actually recognizes this took a lot of effort, and then he actually has some disagreements where maybe that could improve my content. Like, if with the collisional quenching things, like, hey, I can understand why you use the collisional quenching thing because laymen understand it like this, but it may be more correct on the next slide of this to show the reaction mechanism of what
Yeah,
ions
yeah.
collide. Something like that is totally fine. That's fair game. But like, when you're just gonna insult somebody for that, it's like you just kind of cross the dick. Like,
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I have like a newfound respect for anybody that creates video content, because the amount of editing that you have to do for that, the amount of thought, and just, oh my gosh. I follow like comedians on Instagram, or just whoever makes content. I've started like looking into how much time that 67-second clip or that 5-minute video actually takes them, and it blows my mind to like consistently do that. That's a labor of love. That's
yeah, man, it's I can't really speak ill of it, because like making video essays and podcasts and all that stuff has been like vital for my mental health in graduate school. Like, I've really just like kind of latched onto it, because like, absent of like me going to the gym like multiple times a week, like this has been my creative outlet aside from being in the lab. So like, even though it's a lot of hard work, it really fulfills me. And it's like when you find a hobby where it's like the hobby, it's for nobody except for yourself, but it still fulfills you in a way where it's really kind of like beyond words. And I feel like with your page, like you're both invested in what you're actually presenting because you're a chemist and you're doing your science, but you also are very passionate about like, I want to tell the world about what I'm doing and why it's important and why I love it so much, which is like, that's something that's rare. And, you know, even though I can like speak ill of chemistry and the compounds that I work with and stuff, you know, to become so jaded about your field, I feel like is so toxic, because if you don't find enjoyment in what you do, like, you know, speaking not even of the hobbies, but of what you actually do, the fact that you're able to marry your hobby and your actual profession and line of, you know, your work and career, that's something that's really rare. So, you know, and the whole mantra is if you have a hobby for your work, you'll never work a day in your life, which is, you know, that's pretty awesome that you found that so early in your career, which is, you know, amazing.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And you touched on something huge. It's like I really feel like this needs to be talked about more, but finding a hobby before you do postgraduate educational, like going into grad school without a hobby, without an outlet, that's like literally our lives are our projects. And at least on my side, I have to think about so many aspects of my project day
Oh
in
yeah.
and day out for weeks, months, years on end. And if you don't have something else to put energy into, man, you get burnt out real fast.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Ooh.
Like, and you know, to be honest, like, even through all the bullshit and all the all nighters and all the deadlines and, you know, plugging away at experiments, like the fact that like I can look myself in the mirror and say, hey, I gave all my effort to chemistry this day, and I still found time for like a little bit of my hobby. I still found time to like do something that feeds my soul as opposed to like sucks that's dry. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's a rare thing, and it shouldn't be as rare as it is. Like, people like they lose a little bit of themselves in their PhD, and I feel like that's so damaging because, you know, you and I read a really good article about this. Your PhD, and this is a quote. It said your PhD should take the least amount of work possible without sacrificing personal quality, which is like, it's an interesting way to look at it, because like obviously it's not saying be lazy. It says that you want to do as quality and as efficiently the work you do in lab as you possibly can, and then once you have some free time after that, then you can start doing some of your hobbies and stuff. And of course, if your quality of your work is suffering, then your hobbies take a little bit of a backseat. But if your quality is sufficient, then you're able to, like, you know, do things that are just singularly for you, which is yeah, like it was an interesting article. I don't know if I agree with the framing of it, because like it was like the least amount of work possible. Like, no, it should be like, you should never sacrifice your time for quality, but make sure that if your quality is at the par, then you're able to actually you know, conduct some kind of hobby in your life, absent of graduate school. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't totally agree with the framing of it, but like the sentiment I definitely understood, because like you don't want to lose your identity in graduate school, because like a lot of people like will just get their, like, you know, I have a cousin, for example, who had his PhD, and you know, he, you know, was a bit jaded afterwards, and he was like, you know, like the PhD was worth it, you know, I have my dream job, I love it and stuff, but I won't lie, it's a hard, lonely, and crevicing endeavor to do. And so, you know, I was a little bit scared. And honestly, like, you know, I've had obviously terrible days and amazing days in graduate school, but I feel like having that kind of that aspect of personal fulfillment in your life is so vital. So, but to go back to you, the fact that you've been able to marry your personal fulfillment with your graduate work, and the fact that it doesn't feel like, you know, you're slaving away at something with no fruits to actually bear, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm happy for you, and simultaneously jealous, because you actually have a beautiful page with a bunch of colorful compounds.
No, it's something that's really interesting is I switched to a business account recently, and you know, you can see like how many people bookmark your posts, and
Yeah,
like you get this like really cool in-depth analysis. And it's not always my colorful pictures that do the best, you
really.
know. Yeah, I have this one video where it's just a stir bar in a round bottom, and
I
you
saw
can
that too. Yeah,
see, yeah, you can just see it spinning at -78. And I, like, under it I said like, oh, if you want 0, ice bath. If you want -40, acetone, acetonitrile. If
yeah.
you want -78, you
Acid
want,
dry ice. Yeah.
yeah. So I just like put that under there, and it was like the slow-mo. Bunch of people like responded to it, liked it, saved it, sent it to their friends or whatever. And it's like you just don't know what's in lab. Just play around with the slow-mo. What do you do on a day-to-day basis, like a time lapse? I'm sure people would love to see you doing an hour-long TLC. That sounds weird. But condense an hour-long TLC to like 20 seconds and show like the results and how everything develops and like what fractions you're taking. Just because so many people can relate to that,
Yeah.
they would appreciate it.
Yeah, like I thought about doing like kind of like a meme where it's like I go into starting a column with like a clean shaven, and then I put on like a wig or something like that in a separate shot, and like I have a beer by the end of it. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
I got my compound. Dude, there was a great article from the Onion. There's the Chemistry Onion that you can follow. And basically, there was one post that I saw where it's like, first year graduate student too excited about running columns. And then like everyone's like, it was really endearing, but honestly, it was kind of annoying after like 20 minutes because, he was doing like, high fives and like, fist something people for like, running a solid protection column and getting 100% yields, which is like, yeah, it's like memes and like, satire accounts, but they're pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just last kind of thing here. What's what's an account that really inspires you to be better as, a chemist and also an artist, on Instagram?
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be about science. It can be about, it can be memes, for example. Like it can be anything. But what's an account that like, I'll give you an example. So like in the thing that I do, video essays. So there's this guy named Captain Christian who is, if you watch his stuff, his videos are a work of art. Like they're like I would sell my soul to be able to actually edit videos and have as beautiful as a composition of that, because like it's literally emotional watching one of those videos. And so he's a creator that I can say I am so admirable of. I am so like invested in their content, but at the end of the day, I'm almost jealous of them. But I honestly, like I look at that and I'm like, that's my benchmark. That's what I want to be. So like, I'm always looking ahead and saying, okay, I want this to be my page. I want this to be what I actually broadcast into the world and into the universe. So it doesn't have to be like a singular thing. It could be like an account. It could be an idea. It could be a goal. What strives for you to be better as a chemist and I guess generally as a content creator?
So as a chemist slash I don't know if I'm considered a SciComm page. Whatever. So let's say as far as like SciComm goes, I want to figure out at what level the majority of my population is, so I can like teach to that level.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Instagrammers is his name's Marlon. He started out on Vine, he's on YouTube, Instagram, does all those things. This is going to be like super random, but he's a comedian. The thing that I appreciate about his page is the amount of effort or time that he puts into his editing, the scripts for his like short films, and he's really not afraid to like be himself. Something you mentioned earlier, you were saying that it's cool that I have this page where I marry chemistry and art, and it like works out. There is a little bit of stress with not posting so many times a week, because you can definitely see your followers decline as a function of time if you don't post a certain amount of days. Like
really?
Like after one day you're good, after 2 days you're fine, and then like a week with no posting and you lose like 50 followers, and you're like, wow, that's a blow to the ego.
It's kind of crazy actually. Like I always thought that like you just follow a page and you just kind of follow it. Like I never like maliciously unfollowed a page because they haven't posted enough. Like that's
it's the follower to following ratio. You gotta flex for the gram. You gotta have that ratio.
Oh man, yeah. Well,
so,
go on.
Yeah. Do you have to go?
No, I'm saying go on.
Oh yeah,
you're talking about
so,
creative.
You'll notice on like, at least I've noticed on Sundays, if you don't post for a couple days, you just lose a shit ton of followers. And I figure, Sunday is the day that people aren't really doing anything, or they have the day off from work, school, and they go through like their following list, and they'll figure out if they still want to have somebody's content show up on their feed. And if they haven't had anything recently, then they unfollow. So it's just something I've noticed the last couple of years. It's a very interesting thing that you don't really pay attention to unless you're on the content producing side of Instagram, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. So I really appreciate Marlon Webb because he's weird. He has a very interesting sense of humor. Definitely not the societal norm, and he just flies with it. He just runs with it.
Yeah.
So having that confidence to show my personal life without fear of people just, bashing or leaving or whatever. Posting funny things, and not just chemistry, but if I do something interesting, which I don't because I'm in grad school, posting that and not being afraid of. Does that make sense?
No, for sure. It's like you're doing something that feeds your soul, where it's like you're doing this for you, and honestly, at a certain point, you kind of don't really care about what people think about it if it's done in a malicious way. You're yourself, right. And this is what your personality is, or at least an aspect of it.
Yeah. So a lot of people just see my page as a chemistry page, nothing more, nothing less. Well, they just see it as a chemistry page, and as soon as they see me posting a picture of my dog, they're like, "Oh, what the hell is this?" Unfollow.
You should get a lot more followers for that. Who doesn't like dogs? What the hell?
You know what? Maybe I shouldn't be upset that those people are unfollowing.
Exactly. You don't want them in your fucking community, dude. Dogs are like top 10. What the hell is that one person's problem?
Right? No, if you're not like stoked to see a picture of my dog eating snow or whatever,
yeah, get the fuck out of here.
It's interesting. Just figuring out what people in your niche enjoy, what you enjoy doing, marrying those two things. Yeah. At some point, you just have to make content that you enjoy and not care what people think. So, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great attitude to have because, like you said, you're always going to have the people that kind of bring you down no matter how good or bad your content actually is. So it's like you might as well find a niche and find a style of content that makes you happy and also people like, and just to not really give a crap about what people think. And and like I said, like even with the rare instance where it's like someone actually is like respectful and actually critiques you in a constructive way, but like when the people are malicious just for the sake of being malicious, like it's kind of a pathetic existence to be like that gives you gratification. You get a dopamine rush when you trigger somebody on the internet. It's like, come on, dude. Like,
yeah. At this point, like I think about that comment for like a minute, and then I realize like, wow, your life must really suck for you to take the time to try to mess somebody's day up. If it's not constructive, you're not doing anything, then. But yeah, so if you look at my page, I've started introducing just like random ass pictures. So I think my second to last post, or one from this week, was an Erlenmeyer flask in the snow.
Yeah.
Outside of a lab setting.
And I commented on that.
Yeah. And or just like a picture of me through lab goggles outside somewhere. So it's like still science-y, it's still kind of like my thing, but it's not just pure, here's a reaction, here's a cool fact. It's also like stuff that I think about on a day-to-day basis, how I live my life, what I try to do. So I'm trying to slowly incorporate that in there, because long-term, I would like for this to be a page where you can learn something, you get to see what the chemistry lifestyle is like. I don't know about you, but going into chemistry, I pursued a PhD looking at my teachers as an example, and I thought like, oh crap, this is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to grad school, you realize how competitive a tenure track position is. Oh, yeah. And you don't know what else a chemist actually does.
Yeah.
So exactly. That's just like a very weird sensation where you're like, oh crap.
But yeah, for sure, man. Like, you know, I don't know exactly what I want to do with chemistry yet. I know I want to stay in the subject, but yeah, like, the fact that you're still keeping kind of a sunny disposition, even though you realize that like how competitive and cutthroat a lot of the aspects can be, that's it's a rare thing, and the fact that you're doing it, you're channeling it through a hobby is something that's pretty awesome. So yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna be a PhD for the rest of my. Hopefully, when I get it,
Yeah,
I'll be a PhD for the rest. For the rest of my life, and this is not really something that I can hide. So I might as well like make just be positive about it. There's no reason to, you get it. You
Oh, no,
get it.
exactly. Trust me. With all the negativity you get on a daily basis, you got to stay positive. But unfortunately, I have to head out because I have some shit to do tonight. But really love doing this conversation with you, and let's definitely do this again sometime soon. You know, maybe we can, I don't know, like if you want to come on like one of my live streams when I'm like either playing a game or we could talk about a recent paper that comes out when I start doing more organic chemistry content. I'd love to do that with you. But yeah, man, this is awesome. And please tell the people at home where they can find you.
Yeah. So OrgoChemist is the handle. ORGO Chemist. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Well, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram.
Awesome. And the channel name is just OrgoChemist for YouTube as well.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so his links will be down in the description of this video very shortly. You see his handle on the screen. Give him a follow. He's experiencing explosive growth right now, and he's, a good page to follow, even if you're not a chemist. If you want to see some cool, colorful shit that may or may not give you superpowers, definitely give him a follow. But, yeah, thanks a lot, Sasha, for being on here, and I really appreciate you coming on, man. And, best of luck with everything with your PhD and Instagram and beyond, and let's talk soon.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me. Hope you have a good night.
Lone Chemist Podcast.